All right, let's just get right into it. You've probably felt it, right? There's this kind of constant, low-level anxiety about the economy that just seems to be hanging in the air. Well, today, we're going to dig into that feeling and uncover a really surprising driver that might be pulling the strings behind the scenes.
I mean, seriously, does this sound like you? You glance at the news, you hear people talking, and something just feels a little bit off. If you're feeling kind of queasy about where all this is headed, trust me, you are not the only one. It's a feeling that connects a lot of us right now. And look, this isn't just some vague worry. It's being fed by some very real concerns. I mean, all we hear about is AI coming for white-collar jobs. We see a labor market that feels, really unsettled. And there's this genuine fear about what happens if you're out of work for a long time. Then, just to make things interesting, you sprinkle in all the global conflicts, and boom, you've got another layer of what the heck is going on. So this all leads us to the big mystery we're going to unpack. It's the question I hear all the time. With all this nervous energy, why on earth are interest rates still so high? Why is it so painfully expensive to get a loan for a house or a car? Well, the answer, it turns out, is hiding in plain sight.
And that hidden force? It's artificial intelligence. Now, I know, we all hear about AI constantly, but how it's directly reaching into your wallet and messing with interest rates? That's the part of the story that's been flying way under the radar.
To really get a sense of what's happening, just look at this number. $50 billion. That is a staggering amount of money, and right now it's all being pumped into building the guts of AI. We're talking massive, massive data centers. This isn't just some tech trend. This is a tidal wave of cash.
And here's where it gets interesting. That $50 billion injection is so huge that it's basically single-handedly propping up our GDP growth. It's making the whole economy look way stronger, way more robust than it might actually be underneath the surface.
So you can see this chain reaction it creates, right? First, you get this monster investment in AI. Second, that investment juices the GDP numbers, making them look great. And third, the Federal Reserve looks at that strong growth and says, well, I guess the economy is running hot enough to handle high interest rates as it tries to fight inflation. And this is the absolute key takeaway. If you pull that AI spending out of the equation, the economic picture suddenly looks a lot weaker. And in that world, it's pretty darn likely the Fed would have already started cutting interest rates, which would mean your mortgage, your car loan, all of that would be cheaper right now. But hold on, because the story does not end with interest rates. This AI gold rush is creating these massive ripple effects, especially when it comes to where all the investment money is going.
This brings us to this idea economists call capital crowding out. Think of it like this. There's only so much investment cash to go around. When a super hot sector like AI comes along promising insane returns, it acts like a giant vacuum, just sucking up all the available money and leaving other areas high and dry.
And you can really see this shift when you compare today to a decade ago. Back then, when rates were low and the economy was kind of sluggish, U.S. real estate was one of the safest, smartest places to put your money. But today, forget about it. Investors are looking at AI data centers and seeing way bigger dollar signs.
So this AI boom is creating what you could call two big sucks on your wallet. First, it sucks up capital. When there's less money for things like real estate, the cost of getting a mortgage just goes up. Simple as that. And second, it sucks up a truly mind-boggling amount of energy, and all those data centers are putting a strain on the grid, pushing everyone's electricity bills higher. Okay, so as if the whole AI thing wasn't enough to wrap your head around, we've got to throw another big wild card into the mix that's making everything more uncertain. Global conflict. Whenever there's trouble brewing, especially in the Middle East, we all know where we feel it first, right at the gas pump. It's the one price that people are hyper-aware of, and it's where we get that first jolt of global instability.
But here's the thing. While gas prices are definitely up and it's frustrating, the situation is a bit different this time around. Because the U.S. is now a net exporter of oil, we're not as vulnerable as we used to be. We produce more than we need, which gives us a bit of a cushion against those huge price spikes.
Now, this geopolitical stuff creates a really bizarre tug-of-war on interest rates. On one side, the threat of higher oil prices makes everyone worry about inflation, which pressures the Fed to keep rates high. But on the other side, all that global chaos makes investors get scared, and they pour their money into the safety of U.S. bonds. And when lots of people buy bonds, their yields, which are tied to interest rates, actually go down.
So what's the bottom line for you and me? It's volatility. It's choppiness. One day, inflation fears are in the driver's seat. The next, it's a flight to safety. As long as these conflicts are simmering, you can pretty much expect interest rates to be on a wild, unpredictable ride.
You know, after all this talk about algorithms and capital and data centers, it's pretty easy to forget that the economy is, at its core, about people. And that brings us to what might be the most important piece of this entire puzzle. Where do we fit in a world that's becoming more and more automated?
I love this quote from Daryl Fairweather over at Redfin. It just hits the nail on the head. Because when it comes to the really huge life-altering decisions like buying a home, spreadsheets and data can only take you so far.
This really gets to the heart of what technology just can't do. A chatbot can't coach you through the sheer terror of making the biggest purchase of your life. An algorithm can't play marriage counselor when two partners want completely different things. And there's just no code that can replace the years of lived experience a real person brings to a tense human negotiation.
So maybe as we try to make our way through this anxious economy, an economy that's being shaped more and more by AI, perhaps the most important question we can leave you with is this. What is the real, tangible economic value of a human connection? That's something to think about.